Allow me to ask you a question. Why do you teach English? Why did you become a teacher? What was the goal? When did it start? When did you know this was what you wanted to do? Or a part of what you wanted to do? When you have a student, when you accept a student, or the student chooses you or you choose your students, and when you are planning for them, where do you see them in the future? Where do you want them to get with what you are teaching them, with the knowledge you are giving them as a teacher? So I think we can divide English classes into two categories. One of them, at least for me, has been when a student comes to me and asks me to teach them about a specific test they're gonna take, or has a goal for like a grade, or they want to apply for universities, which happens a lot in my country, or they have a specific goal and that's all they care about. They do not really care about how they're gonna get there. They just want to get to that goal in the specific time they have. But there are other students who I appreciate, who I love, and who I attract to myself because this is what I really want to do. Those are the students who want to learn the language. They want to be able to use it, and they care about growing with it. So, what I started doing was that I saw these students that cared about their growth as people who were ready to learn language in a way that would benefit their lives. Not just language-wise, but their whole lives. So I started asking myself questions. I would look at my student as a whole person and not just as a language learner. I would ask the student about their interests and get in touch with them and connect with them and want to know about how their lives are and what are their struggles. So I read a lot of books, like tons of books, especially personal development books. And I realized that I could use the knowledge that I was gaining from the books, which were English, and actually give my students some tools not only for their English, but for their lives. So I would ask, what does the student need in their lives right now? When I started doing that, I realized that when what I'm teaching my student is connected to their own lives directly, and when they see the impact on their lives, they also absorb the language much better. So English has a few areas, and I would think of each area and find the ways that I could approach that area specifically. When I say area, I mean reading, speaking, writing, listening, and definitely grammar, vocabulary. So there were a lot of approaches, and I see my students as individuals who want to grow. And what we could do which engages students so much, first of all, we need to keep in mind that people learn differently. Each individual has their own strengths and weaknesses, and it's so important to take those into consideration. You know, one approach works for everyone, and that's so important to consider. To teach my students reading, I started giving them tasks from the book that I wanted them to get engaged with. I would ask them to read some parts for themselves or in class. I would ask them to look up the words, to summarize what they had read, to give their own opinions, and we would engage with the text directly. I would sometimes, to make the readings appropriate for the level, we would actually need to change the text a little. I might delete some words. I might change some words. I might ask the student not to read some pages because it's important not to get them overwhelmed, but at the same time, we need to challenge them so they would be able to learn new things. For the listening part, we could use podcasts, we could use short videos, and when the topic is interesting for the student, they engage so beautifully. They try to first understand the whole meaning, and then when you ask them questions, they can go into details and learn so many things. Learn the skill of listening, at the same time learn new vocabulary. And for the writing and for speaking, you just need to get the student engaged. Let them just fly freely and do what they enjoy, and to teach them the vocabulary and grammar based on the curriculums and based on the rules that are out there about what the student needs to learn, and based on how you approach the student and evaluate the student weaknesses and strengths, you will notice that during the process, you will notice that what happens is that they learn the grammar and vocabulary by using it. Sometimes they might need extra explanations, of course, which makes sense and it's plausible. And so what you do is that if they have questions, if something is not clear enough for them, you give them clarity and you can explain it to them. You can give them more examples for a word that they cannot completely understand. But the important thing is that you get the student engaged in the subject, in the context, before you try to put some rules or abstract ideas into their mind. This makes them more motivated to continue learning. This decreases their boredom, which happens so frequently with English classes when they go from textbooks, and it individualizes. The student feels important in the learning process, in the choices that they have. The improvement that happens is not only in the language learning, and I've had different students and their lives changes. What if we integrate language learning with growth, with knowledge, and make it something more than about the rules of the language and the short-term goals? What if we make it something big that would change lives along the learning? Isn't it beautiful? So I think it will work for a lot of people, and sometimes some people might rather go with a direct curriculum and just get to their goal. That is completely respected. It's about the individual, it's about the student. Our goal as teachers should be to be able to give the student what makes them feel their best and their learning the most enjoyable. Thank you for your attention, and I hope that these tools could change lives. Thank you.